So I'm here today with Kathy Robichaux, and it was really great to meet you in person. I don't know if you know, but about 2 months ago, Chad was on Dad Talk Today.
Yes,
and
I do.
What a great time we had with him.
Good, I'm glad.
But he wrote the book Marriage Advance.
Yes.
And you were mentioned in there as well. So here you are, you're the wife of a veteran who's gone through a lot of stuff. Obviously, your husband is a man's man, right?
Yes.
But how did you, as a wife, deal with that? I mean, there were a lot of things that I'm sure you had to deal with. Why don't you share some of your experiences?
Well, I mean, even if we go back to the beginning of our marriage, I was only 18 when we got married. And so you bring two children basically together. He was in the Marine Corps.
Right.
He had been in the Marine Corps for 2 years at that time.
Yeah.
I had just graduated high school.
Yeah.
So you're bringing two kids that are crazy about each other but have no solid foundation on relationships, on how to be married. And we both come from divorced families. And so we're trying to be married. So going into this marriage was definitely not easy, and then you add the struggles of a military member taking off to combat and coming back with some issues that you really don't understand and don't know how to move forward with. So for me, actually, in the struggles I had dealt with him for so many years of being married young, I just thought that was just the norm, you know? And that it was just getting worse, and that he was just even losing more interest in me, whatever. He was falling out of love with me. We had 3 young children, and I was busy with them, so I just felt like maybe that's where it was going. And so when he actually came home from his last deployment to Afghanistan, and was told he can no longer return to his job, that he was basically broken. And I saw a change in him. This was easy for me at first to do.
We'll be just fine.
When he came home, I was able to really love on him and care for him, and it was almost, I'm a nurturer at heart. I had babies young. I wanted babies since I was a baby. I was just a little mama. And so that was my gift. I could go ahead and help my husband get well. And so the first couple months, he was just dealing with some serious anxiety that made him very quiet, made him just need peace in the home. That just all seemed like that was the easy part. But I didn't know that he was really dealing with post-traumatic stress. We didn't understand what that was. And so over the next 3 years, that's when it started getting ugly. And like I said, I just thought it was something between us.
I remember that Chad said at one point when he got married, if I remember correctly, that he did not necessarily look at marriage as being a commitment that would last for life. You know, it was like, because you both came from divorced families and everything, you know, we'll be married for a time and then... Was that your philosophy too?
No. In fact, I didn't even hear that until after we started My Dearest Foundation.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Surprise.
That was not I did not go into the marriage thinking, I didn't have he said 1 foot in and 1 foot out. That was not I was marrying him, and that's what I wanted. Even when I was unhappy, I wanted to see my husband and me grow and strengthen and get stronger in our marriage. And so, that was definitely not what I was thinking when we got married.
So, but neither one of you were believers in Christ at the time that you got married, from what I understand.
Actually, I was a believer. I found the Lord when I was 10 years old. There was a family that lived down the street from my mother. And they would take me to church with them. And I was so in awe of what I would experience at the church. I was young, so I was in the kids' church, but they had puppets in there, and I liked it. I really loved it, and that's how they introduced Christ to me. And so I accepted Jesus in my life probably by the time I was 11. I could say I remember accepting Jesus in my life. But those people didn't, you know, we didn't live by them forever. And I didn't have that foundation to guide me and continue to take me to church with them.
Yeah.
And we moved away, and I didn't have that anymore, but that's who I was. I knew I had became a Christian, and I remember going to find churches, and I'd ask my stepdad, can you drop me off at, I remember there was a Calvary Chapel at a high school. Drop me off there, he'd drop me off in the front, and come pick me up after. You know? So I was searching for that, and then Chad said he had a similar experience when he was 14 with another family.
Okay.
So then, so we went into the marriage like, okay, we're going to go to church, you know?
Right.
But we weren't living that lifestyle because we were like, didn't really look, I guess, have that solid foundation to really live a lifestyle that God called us to live as a young single, you know.
And you didn't have the people around you to mentor you.
Yes,
because
exactly.
Mentorship, from what I heard Chad say, was very important in his life.
Yes.
And was it also similarly important in your life?
Yes. So I didn't have much of it though. I didn't really have. As a child, I really didn't have that in my life. So obviously, but that family that did lead me to the Lord, obviously that was the one family, but I didn't have that after that. My family, my mother was off to work, and, you know, I was kind of just doing my own thing. So, it wasn't until maybe after we got married that when we did get connected in the church, a few people would come alongside us, and that would last for so long, because that might have been another thing, that he was only halfway in and halfway out. And for me, I needed him to lead us in that direction. And so even as the kids got older, if he wasn't all fully in and dedicated to taking his family to church, as my kids got older and I would try to bring them to church, they kind of resented going to church too.
Because the father was not there as the leader.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense. And too often, we don't talk about that a lot, that, you know, the father should be showing some type of spiritual leadership. Too often that it's the mother that's doing it, or it's the grandmother or something else. And because, you know, with Dad Talk today, we talk a lot about the importance of fathers. So you're actually affirming what we're saying. A father's presence, a father's example is extremely important. So now you and Chad had some struggles. I mean, looking at what I read in the book, your marriage should be considered a trophy of grace at this point.
Oh, yes.
Can you explain a little bit of those difficulties and how you moved through? Because from everything that I saw, you guys were done. Split the house, split this, we've sold that, we are. I don't know whether you wanted to, but that was where you were at.
It was to the point. It was to the point that I knew that I deserved. I was worth more. I was worth more. The decisions he made that got us to that point where
not good decisions.
Yes, not good decisions. And we had already walked through several of those bad decisions. And I got to a point like, when's enough enough? Like, that was the hardest point for me, being strong enough to say, I am worth more than this. And the kids are worth more than this. And he kind of got to the point where he can't have his cake and eat it too, you know? He has to make a decision, but I guess I'm the one, sadly, who's got to be the first to make this decision. Because I'm done. And so, no, I did not want my marriage to end, but he was making that decision.
Now, as I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong on this, because Chad was pretty open about a lot of these things. He got to the place that not only were you apart, but he was thinking about ending his life at that point. And that you were still, I mean, I guess to some degree you were pursuing him still.
Well,
why aren't you being the man in this house? Why aren't you, you fight everything, but you don't fight for your family? That's what I think I heard him say.
It was almost like when we separated, even though Chad didn't want to fight for our marriage yet, he wasn't ready yet when we separated, but yet it was almost like he wanted me to run after him and go save him, and still lift him up. and I couldn't do that. I had already been beaten down so much.
Yeah.
And so so I think over time that took a toll on him.
Right.
That maybe he got to a point where he felt lonely.
Yeah.
And he knew he was losing me, and that our family was really done.
So in this time, was there anybody at the church that was coming alongside and saying, Kathy, stick it out? Or were they kind of telling you, Kathy, you deserve better, split? Or, I mean, were they doing anything to Chad? Say, Chad, you know what, you're acting terribly. Or, Chad, you know what, we're with you 100%. I mean, because sometimes people, the well-meaning, well-intentioned people give the most atrocious advice in the world. What did you experience at that time?
So we were, again, before we separated, there was not really us getting connected in the church. There was me trying to, and I would go, and Chad was kind of the guy, like, don't expect me to go to, barbecues with these guys, and that's not me, They're weak, I don't need they're not going to tell me what to do or how to live my life. So while we were separated, I got to a point where I was like, yes, right away, I got connected in my church. You met him tonight, Jeff Wells, he was the pastor of the church that I began to get connected in, and it was the community in that church that came alongside me and just prayed for me, prayed for my marriage, and more so, they already knew that Chad had moved on. They knew so they're human. They saw something that was broken. They weren't praying for our marriage to be restored, but they were praying for my heart. They were praying for Chad's decisions and what he was going through. But somehow God used their prayers to get, somehow get us back together, but not through their words, but what Christ was doing in the midst of that.
So there was a lady that I talked with a couple of weeks ago. She's been married for 48 years, and she said the first 40 were the toughest. And she said, there were so many times she was willing to, she would just said, I deserve better, I should walk away, all of these things. And then at one point, after 40 years, she said to her husband, how come you're not being nice to me? And something had happened in there, but she kept on saying, my commitment in marriage was to God. It was my marriage vow to God that kept me through these very difficult times. And now she says she's got a wonderful marriage, but the first 40 years were the most difficult. How many people do you think quit on their marriage before getting through that last hurdle, or the bigger hurdles?
Oh man, well, I would definitely say, I remember picking up the book, Love Dare.
The Love Dare.
The Love Dare. I made it to day 13. I was like, I'm done. I cannot do this because he's not responding. And it's hard. It's tough. And so, while we were separated, when I began to pray for Chad, I think I prayed for our marriage before, brought it up, whatever, change him, God, now it was, I picked up the book Power of a Praying Wife.
By
Stormy
Meredith.
I did not know what to pray for him, but I knew God was calling me. And I thought, how do you pray for somebody that you don't even like? Because I was not liking him. He was lying to our kids. He was, it was just a big mess. Divorce is just an ugly mess. And how do you pray for somebody you don't like? And so I picked up her book and I was like, okay. And I looked at the table of contents, his integrity, his choices, so I started picking all that stuff, right? But the very first...
The things that you really wanted, like, God just right here.
Exactly. Okay, I'll pray for him. Change him. So anyways, the very first prayer in there is praying for his wife. And in that prayer, and really, not just one time, this was daily waking up, going to bed, just really taking the time to go through that Power of a Praying Wife. God began to open my eyes and to change my heart. And then I got to a point with the help of that book guiding me and leading me. Help me to see Chad the way you see Chad, God. Help me to love Chad the way you love Chad, and help me to forgive Chad the way you forgive Chad. And I really began to, my heart began to soften for him and actually kind of grieve for him.
Was that an immediate process, or did that take some time?
No, it took some time. It took some time. Not long though. Within a week, it's just really getting on my knees and praying. God really began to soften my heart pretty quick. But it was a lot of quiet time. It was a lot of alone time. It was a lot of the one-on-one time with God.
Right.
And because for the first time, I got married so young, and I had my kids, all three of them at the age of 22. I had 3 children.
Right.
And so that's all I knew. And so now here it is. We're 15 years married, and everything I knew was done. Like the kids would go visit him, and he was getting to play single life in front of my kids, which made me devastated. And all they saw was me just in bed crying all the time. So, getting to that place of having my heart soften, and getting to a place of knowing that I need to forgive. I needed to work on forgiveness because I saw my father hate my mother. Even she's deceased, and he still hates her, and I still have to hear about it. And I didn't want my kids to experience that same thing, and I was going down that same path of just such bitterness and anger. That I did not want that. So I knew God needed to change my heart. He needed to change it quick because of what we were going through. So difficult.
Right. So you talked about your kids seeing Chad and then seeing you weeping and everything. Tell me about the impact. What was going on in their lives? When my parents went through divorce, prior to that, I was ranked number 3 out of 1,757. And when they were going through the divorce and stuff like that, everything started to fall apart. People say that children are resilient, children are happy if their parents are happy, but children are happy when their parents are together. Children are happy when their parents have learned to work things out. Children are not as resilient. They're being crushed and they're broken in many instances, being told this is what you need to do. And then even children feel like, well, I must be odd now because that's not the way that I'm feeling. And did you see behavioral changes in your children? Did you see attitude changes?
Yeah, especially Hunter, the oldest one. He was just in 7th grade. That was a tough year for him to experience this. He started not doing well in school. He didn't know. He was very confused on how to even treat me. He just was. It was really hard to see him just so confused like that. And I think it was tough. I think it was more. Words can't even describe seeing what he went through. I ended up thinking maybe he needed to be on medication, because something wasn't right, and we ended up getting him on medication, which was the worst thing we could have did, because then he even got, at that time, it seemed like he just got even worse. Thankfully, that was a month long, but I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do for this young boy who was experiencing such heartache, but the way he was expressing it was just something I didn't know what to deal with. I didn't know how.
And it's very cruel because a lot of these divorce attorneys say, like with divorce, we need to wrap things up so kids can get on with their lives. And that is the most blatant lie, what they do. Like somehow by finishing this up quickly, the kids are going to somehow magically be healed. But you're right. I've talked with many people, and the impact of divorce upon them is not just merely immediate, but it lasts for years and years, and sometimes for a lifetime. But now Hunter was here tonight.
Yes, he was.
And when Chad said that, I think one of the things he said is, what would have happened if the children had you guys not worked things out? But what I want to go back to that is because when Chad, was going to work things out, you've already been down that path a few times, and you're not really believing him.
Oh yeah, definitely not. It was tough. He gave me a call. He said, I don't want to lose the best thing that's ever happened to me. I didn't even answer the phone anymore. I was done answering that. I was to the point, like, if we need to talk about the kids, that's one thing. I don't want to lose the best thing that's ever happened to me. It's like, really? like you've played the field, you've done what you want to do, and now you want to come back, you know?
Yeah.
And our kids have already got to this point. Like I was not happy. So, but I wanted to do what God was calling me to do. Yeah. That's when I reached out to my church and I said, is there a pastor on call I can speak to? Like I just wanted somebody that had
godly knowledge.
Godly knowledge, to see with different eyes than everybody else that already known what Chad had put me through.
Right.
Definitely not my friends or my family.
Right.
You know, I had some great people that I had already started getting connected with in the church, but still, again, we're human. Like, why would you want to walk back into that relationship?
Right.
Obviously, the track record
is not good.
Is not good.
Right.
And so that's when the church, they were like, sorry, we don't have a pastor here today. They're out at a conference, but we have a elder that's on call.
Right.
And that's when Steve Toth called me, and because he's a male, he said, you can meet me at Starbucks. I met, let's meet at Starbucks in an hour. So in the middle of Starbucks, people come in to get their coffee. I'm like, I meet Steve and I'm ready to unload. This is everything my husband has done to me and doing to me, and now he wants to come back. Steve gets me to get to the point. Chad always says land the plane. He gets me to the point like in 5 minutes. And I'm like, I'm still crying. This guy needs me. I need like days to tell this guy everything.
I know exactly.
And I had like 5 minutes. I like need a tissue here from crying already. So he gave me like 5 minutes. But the one thing he said to me is, you know, he didn't say go back to Chad. He did not say that. This was just the beginning of it.
Yeah.
And he said, would he be willing to meet with me? And I was like, no, you're not. First of all, you're not a Special Forces Recon Marine or any kind of military background.
Yeah.
He's gonna think you're a nerd, and that's not gonna work.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I got a guy that I think would be perfect for him to talk to.
Yeah.
He was a Navy SEAL. He's a retired Navy SEAL, and then his son's a Navy SEAL as well. And I was like, yes, my husband's gonna be saved. And the funny thing is, this is how God works. It wasn't that guy that Chad connected with. In fact, it just wasn't a match for Chad. And it was Steve Toth that actually made the impact in Chad's life.
Right.
And Steve was just a small business owner at the time. Thank God it was before the politics, came along. It was the year before he started running for state legislator. So he had time for us. And I tell you what, not having the mother or the father, mothers or fathers in our life to help go through this with us. It was Steve Toth and Babette Toth that came alongside us. And they loved on us, and they were there. If they had just left at 8 o'clock at night because we were screaming at each other and having a hard time, and we called back at 2 a.m., they would be back for us. They would come. And they were totally, like God sent. And I don't know, I don't have the energy for that, and how did they have the energy for that? And for a whole year to walk through this with us, that's how it was.
And what I see is this, because they made those sacrifices, you have Mighty Oaks. That 1 year of sacrifice, how many people and families it's reached out to. But now, okay, so you do see Steve. I know Chad talked about, he gave us Steve his plan, and Steve said, get serious, and that was the end of that. Chad,
what's he talking about? I put a lot of time in that.
I know, but so you get back together. How did that whole process work out? Because eventually he moved back in with you. Was that after a couple of months? What was?
No, it was very short time.
Okay.
It was within a few days, actually, and I don't know why or why I said that was okay, but I did, and I said we have to go to a marriage counseling thing. So I was looking for something. I found something that was like a weekend long, and he was willing to go through it, and he wasn't willing before. Exactly. So that made a huge difference. So there were steps that he took that I could see that he was willing to, and I just kept, truthfully, I was like, I'm so stupid.
I know.
I'm just gonna get hurt again. And it was rocky. It was really rocky. But if it wouldn't have been for those mentors in our life, we wouldn't have been able to survive that.
How did Babette mentor you? Because, I mean, to me, I'm thinking about this whole thing.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking Babette probably had her hand as full as Steve did.
Yeah. So, actually, I give Babette a lot of credit because she actually wasn't as able to be in person with us as much as Steve was. But the fact that she supported him to be available for us as much as he was.
Wow.
So I have to say that because he really helped both of us.
Yeah.
And then if Babette was around, we had a little bit more one-on-one with Babette. But
because anybody would have said you'd have been justified feeling that way.
Yes, exactly.
And that's why I'm thinking that maybe somebody had to be there to say, yeah, you may be justified. However, I mean, I don't know what the process was.
So that was definitely it. Is actually like many times Steve would say, definitely confront Chad. And how long did you do this to her for? How long has she been hurting for?
Yeah.
And so give her a second. Give her some time. She needs to come through this on the other side. It's going to take a while. And then on the other side, he would come to me and like, Kathy, you're not walking in forgiveness here. He is doing what he can do, and you're not even giving him the opportunity.
Yeah.
And then Babette and Steve would come together and just mentor us as a couple and biblically walk us through forgiveness or whatever it was we were struggling with, or just sharing stories of their marriage.
Right.
And so that really helped. But like I said, if we didn't have them, we wouldn't be.
So what I hear you saying then, a counselor by himself or herself would not have been enough. You needed somebody to walk alongside.
Exactly. That is so it. Because we did try counselors before.
Right.
But it was them that actually, like I said,
almost brought you to the point of making it worse.
Yeah. It was, and we needed that. We needed that one-on-one, someone to tell us, the hard things.
Right.
There was a time that even Steve, I went up in Hunter's bed. He was in an upstairs room, and I didn't come out for like 2 days. And this was, after us getting back together, and I just couldn't get through the past.
Yeah.
And Chad actually loved me through that while I was up there. Instead of holding that against me, he called Steve and Babette. They came over, and he encouraged me to get out of that bed. Like, who else would? The counselor can't come over and encourage you to get out of bed.
Right.
But these people that are giving us their everything, you need to get out of bed.
Yeah.
That made a huge difference.
Do you find that a lot of churches have people like that walk with people? That laugh does not sound like a happy laugh.
No, I think that's what we lack. I think it takes a lot of commitment, and I think it's very hard to find another couple that can come alongside you like that. That's something we need to work on as Christians, as believers, for sure.
Both you and Chad talked about marriage being a covenant. And a covenant, who was the covenant made to first?
Yeah, that was made to the Lord first, to God first, that our marriage, to be one, I guess,
Right. So you have a covenant made to God, and yet too often it seems like some of the people in the church will try to tell you, maybe treat that covenant as if it's worthless, in a sense. I mean, if you're going through a difficult time, there are a lot of good, well-meaning people that you don't deserve this, move on. But Jesus didn't deserve the stuff that he got through, and yet he did that because of the joy set before him. He endured the cross. And marriage, if I would understand what you're saying, it's not always rosy and flowers. There are times that you're having to carry a cross, and that's some of the, I think it's one of the areas that we need to learn to live with the cross.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think when we take ourself out of the motive, things start to change. And even as I started working with the women in Mighty Oaks, trying to, yes, we've all been hurt, and more than likely, these wives that are there,
right.
most of the wives are hurt by their husbands,
right.
and they think they're coming there to just
unload on
yes,
them.
and bash their husbands, and then they learn, oh my gosh, I'm not here to talk about my husband. I'm here to turn that mirror on me, and that's what I did. I turned that. I had to look at myself. Yeah, my husband made his actions were what actually, ended our marriage. But what kind of wife was I being in the midst of that?
Tell me a little bit more about the ministry to women, because I think too often we focus on the veterans, assuming that they're men when they are men, but we forget about the veterans' families because they also have been through a lot. I mean, when he's deployed, your mother, your father, your everything at the same time. You're single, in a sense. You're praying for your husband that you can't even see. You don't know where he is. He may not be able to communicate with you because of the mission that he's on. So there's a lot of challenges to military people, people like that. Tell me a little bit about how you minister to military wives, and if there's also a ministry to the children.
So right now we do have a ministry in Mighty Oaks that services military wives as well as military females and veterans, female veterans as well. We do not treat them any different whether they're a spouse or military member. They get the same, because you've heard Mighty Oaks, we focus on becoming the wife, the woman, or the man that God created us to be. So sometimes maybe some of them will come through, especially military women, and they'll come through and they might be like, why am I, no, I want the man, that I need to. But then within a day or 2 days or 3 days, those walls come down and they start seeing, because we were all, as a woman or a man, we were created for a purpose. And so finding that purpose again, and sometimes that takes looking back at ourselves first. And so, so as far as the female veterans, it's the same thing. We train them. We talk about one class on post-traumatic stress. That is a class.
That's what I heard. 45 minutes. That's it.
That's it. It's and then they're like, "What? I thought we were going to learn how to deal with post-traumatic stress." You're getting one class on post-traumatic stress from a creation standpoint. How we were all created to react to abnormal situations. And because you're reacting to abnormal situation, you are not disordered. So then them having to maybe put that in their, learn that their husband's not disordered. Don't let that define them. Or, and so that's the one class they get. They are going to get classes on finding where our worth comes from. Whether they're a mother or not, they're going to hear a class on mothering, because somewhere in their life they have a niece or a nephew or a child in their life, and someone that they're going to mentor somewhere down the line, maybe as a mother. They're going to hear about their home. And when we talk about the home, what kind of atmosphere are we setting in our home? And that's huge with these guys. I know with Chad personally, I'm very aggressive when it comes to how I talk, my passion to how I talk to him or how I respond. It can make him so angry, and then I get angry. He's angry because I was never angry to begin with.
I know.
And then it becomes a big mess. So setting the atmosphere in our home, how are we even speaking? And so those are the things. So that we're teaching on. As far as family, kids, we don't have anything for Mighty Oaks yet for family camps or anything. Hopefully we'll get there, but none of us really have that experience yet to be able to teach it, so maybe God will bring that down.
What can churches do to help? Because you are, I know you've got a great program, but there are a lot of churches, and churches could be mobilized for something like this. I don't know that they have all the necessary specialized training, and some people might want to say, well, we have our church programs. Just put them in a program, but it's not a program that's going to help a lot of times. But so what would you, if a church wanted to get involved, or if somebody wanted to say, hey, church, let's get our church involved. Do you have any recommendations for that?
Right now what we do is we have we have outposts at different areas, which are great because they can come and these outposts are peer-to-peer as well.
Right.
And so a lot of guys that have come through, men or women that have come through the program, those we don't have lots of those. That would be great if something was set up in churches. But above that, we need Stephen Babette Toast to come alongside hurting marriage, not just military marriages, hurting marriages,
Right.
to encourage them and show them that this is okay. This is not. There's nothing wrong with this. This is life. This is relationship.
Right.
You know. And so I think that would be one of the best things that we can do as far as hurting marriages.
Okay, so as far as final question here, because you've given me so much time, and I appreciate that. Yeah. But I mean, Chad, I think, was talking today about how we have this missing element in the soul. We, the more one of the counselors here talked about moral injury, the part where the heart is hurt, and who is the one who attends to the heart? It's the Lord Jesus Christ.
Yes.
Who's the one who restores the soul? It's our shepherd, the Lord Jesus Christ. But so I guess my question is, can people, maybe a couple of different aspects, can people get the full benefit of the program without knowing Christ? Can they enter the program and saying, listen, I want nothing to do with your religion, but I want to get fixed? And can they get the full benefit if they don't fix that first?
Right, exactly. So we have all kinds of different faiths come through our program. Or we have atheists come through our program. Some might not even know they're coming to a faith program when they get there, and they're kind of like,
you lied to me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Some do maybe come there and they're like, they know it's a faith-based program. They're like, yeah, I'm not going to do, I don't need to be what they be, but I'll get some of their principles and, kind of learn what they have to say and, go from there.
Yeah.
I personally, and Chad would say the same thing, I think unless they have accepted Jesus into their life and surrender to Him fully and completely. Because for me, I wasn't able to personally heal and move forward through those years that I had been hurt to Chad. So I made it clear how hurt I was to him, that I made his life miserable.
Right.
So because I was so unforgiving and bitter towards him, I was unable to move forward. But when I finally let that go and I finally moved forward in forgiveness, that poison of unforgiveness that was taking over me finally was gone, and I could breathe, and I had freedom for the first time. Whether he was or was not going to be in my life, I still needed to have that experience and be able to break free from the chains of unforgiveness. So I don't see how somebody can do this. Yeah, they can probably come through the program, feel good, go make a few changes in their life, but will it stick? Probably not. Yeah, I think only Christ gives us that strength to move forward like that.
Well, it was a pleasure talking with you, and I was looking forward to hearing the other side of the story.
Yes.
And
well, if in the Unfair Advantage book, maybe you didn't see it, but each chapter has his chapter,
and then yours.
I wrote those chapters.
Yes.
So he's a really good writer and a really good teacher, but that was my heart writing that. So that really shares a lot in there.
No, it was good. It was good to watch both of them, and it was very worthwhile reading. I got that because I said, okay, we're going to have Chad on the program. There were 2 PDFs, and I said, okay, these are like 99 cents each. I'll get these first, right? And then the first one was like, okay, the short of the 2 was Unfair Advantage. And I think I read that like in a day or 2 or something like that, because it was an easier read. But I also have it all marked up too, because there were a lot of very good things.
It's a great one.
Yeah, and it's something that, because there is the whole thing, you cannot pretend away a hurt. You have to embrace and forgive the person who has done this to you. And it's sometimes through our scars that we grow. And so anyway, it was really so great to see you, to meet you in person. You're a trophy. You both are trophies of grace.
Thank you.
Your families. I'm so glad to see the things that have happened. And you're an example to everybody here. I've gotten to talk with Steve Toth a little bit too. Good. So we look forward, because we're trying to change things in the state of Texas. Number one, we need to strengthen families. Not just people in the church, but but everywhere.
Yeah.
And this whole idea of the divorce culture that we have in Texas, any people can get divorced for any reason, for no reason. They can make up a reason. They can force divorce. And the person who wants to keep the family together has no defense. And, you know, the attorneys rape and pillage you financially and in other ways. You get people thrown in jail through this whole stuff. You get kids that are broken. So I know that Steve is an ally in trying to get some of these things changed. But to actually read of his importance in your lives is really neat.
Yeah, it's really cool. He's really, like Chad and I love him like a dad too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's a little bit younger than what our dads would have been, would be. Chad's dad's already since passed away. My dad's still alive. He's still an angry, bitter man. He's not fun to be around. But anyway, so Steve's a little bit younger, but we still like to think of him like a father.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, again, thank you so much once again. It was so great to meet you. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thanks.